Hey, grateful day, everybody. So, I've been getting a lot of buzz around the supervision content, especially the post that I put out on Sunday as it relates to me firing a supervisee in training. And so, if you're new to me, my name is Dr. TK, clinical psychologist, therapist, business coach, and mentor. And I've been in the field doing a lot of things for a long time. And what I find, which is very interesting to me, is that while I know that therapists, y'all want to grow your business, scale your business, have streams of income, be abundant, and all those things, it always baffles me that we just always want the tea. We just always want the tea. I accepted, okay, so I used to work for the county out in Los Angeles. And when I left, I still wanted to supervise. I wasn't even supervising in the county, which was a piece of me that I felt like was missing, but I had a group practice. So fast forward. I left the county and I started applying for U2 or W9, whichever opportunity came up for a clinical supervisor. So I applied for a position still in South Central Los Angeles, got the position, and it actually was for uh, KPIC positions. So if you're in California, you know what I mean. So for internship, if you're unfamiliar, you have if it has not changed, because I have not stepped foot on a campus in a while, it used to be APA, APIC, KPIC, and then outside of that, I don't know what to tell you, but those are the levels of internship for doctoral students to get their hours. Okay. So this was, I believe, a KPIC site. And I was chosen to come on board because they already had one supervisor, but they needed one that was just clinical based. Okay. So the first supervisor, he did all training around assessment and testing. I was to come in, and if you know anything about me, I am the quality assurance gal. I'm the let's get your paperwork in order and let me help you understand why paperwork is not the devil from a very fun and easy way, you get me? But part of that was I was meeting with these students for individual supervision. The other psychologist, he was meeting with them for 2 hours of group supervision, and it was directly related to clinical and testing. Okay, I just wanted to make that clear because that alluded to pretty much what had happened here. And so while I'm meeting with the students, especially if I'm new to the site, but I was part of with this particular cohort. I came on with the cohort before them. So I came in at the tail end. So that's not always the best because they got accustomed to another supervisor. And then here I come in. And I know people don't like change. I get it. But I'm also a person where I take our ethics very seriously. I want you to win. And once they got to know me, even the students who were leaving, they were like, damn, why you couldn't be our supervisor like in the beginning? Because they saw how I played both sides, meaning I'm going to show you everything that's possible. And yes, I'm going to use everything that I've done successfully pre and post license in the field to show you how there's money out here to be made and there's impact out here to be made. But at the same time, you're not about to lose your license before you get your license. Okay. So just came into the show, some love when I see, okay, yeah. So all right, fast forward. So I'm meeting with the students. Everything is going well. We're doing individual supervision, et cetera, et cetera. One student, meaning me and the other supervisors, start noticing that one, they were saying that, and this is always a telltale red flag, right? Where their clients aren't making any progress. Now, it could be that the clients aren't doing the work, but I always like to look at both sides, meaning, is there anything that we can do, meaning the therapist, to impact whatever you're doing in treatment? Try some different things. And I know sometimes when we come out of school, we are sticklers for either doing what our professors told us or only doing what we know. Let's be real. We sometimes scared to experiment until we even get a license, you know? So we were working with this student on this, and me and the other supervisor started talking because we started noticing that we were getting pushback with feedback. So once we realized that the feedback wasn't being received, I started breaking down her cases. And what I started noticing is I was giving the same type of feedback in the same way, in the same tone. I'm a super cool, chill, like, supervisor. And so she just wasn't receiving it. Also, I noticed that she was like lagging on paperwork. So when something starts to build up for me, whether it's a team member, whether it's somebody in my house, like anything, right? I will start looking at the bigger picture. But it gets a little tricky when you're in a work site because by HR laws, like people don't have to tell you all their business, nor should you be asking. And so I poked around a little bit and I said, in so many words, is there something else maybe going on the personal side? Because at this point, they're out of school, they're just doing hours full time. Is there anything going on the personal side that would impact your ability to show up and be a little bit more, flexible? And she wasn't like guarded or anything, like in a negative way, but she was just like, no, 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 like everything is cool. And I'm just thinking, like, you do know that all of us in the mental health field, right? Like, all of us got trained to read body language in my head. At some point, I ended up saying it, not like that, but I was like, this ain't therapy, but that this is supervision. And so part of supervision is if there's something that's impacting your clinical work and you're not able to be effective, we need to know what it is, or around and about, if you don't want to tell me all your business, what it is, so that even we can assess to see if this client should still be on your caseload. That's ethics, right? So she swore up and down wasn't nothing wrong, and she swore up and down like her paperwork was going to get finished. At some point, kind of like a relationship, we get tired of empty promises. So what we end up doing as and this was like 3 months in, 90 days of the same feedback every single week, some got to give. You know what I'm saying? Your program only 12 months. So because I was the clinical person, I put her on what we would know for kids as a behavioral modification, which is basically like it's not called behavioral modification, but it's basically an agreement that basically says we're going to review your progress again at this point in time. And then we minimize like what we were expecting, not minimizing the quality of work, but just like, let's see if she can even do this. So part of this whole process, she had, let's just say, I know one of the cases was a non-talkative therapist. Now they're working with kids, and I could play games real quick playing with kids. I've worked in schools, in clinics, in the homes, in jails, and not all kids are created equal. Not all kids are the same, and not all kids respond the same. So I'm just throwing stuff at her, and she's not trying. It got to the point where she starts saying, and put a one in the comment box if you would agree, this is like irritating, right? So you're giving someone feedback. They keep saying something isn't working, but everything you give them, they're like, oh, that's not going to work. Oh, I tried that already. And I'm thinking in my head, you couldn't have tried all this or you would have said it. So it got to the point where I said, well, tell me what happened last time you tried it. Couldn't tell me nothing. Right? And I was like, and then she would say something like, oh, that's not going to work. Okay, well, let's stay here. Let's talk about why you believe it's not going to work for the client. She couldn't articulate her thoughts. And then I'm in my head, I'm playing Takesha and Clinical Supervisor. The Takesha part of me is like, if this was like one of my friends, I'd be like, cut the bullshit. It's like, just say you don't know what to do, and you probably don't even want to receive help. But I know that not everybody's able to tap into that level of thinking to be even able to admit that either the client is not a good fit, or it could be a lot of stuff going on. Maybe they feel some type of way about themselves, imposter syndrome, all that stuff is real. So, and then the supervisor part of me is like, you say that the clients are being resistant, but let's talk about how you're having a parallel process with what you're saying that the clients are not doing with me. Meaning you're not talking to me, but you're saying that the clients aren't talking to you. Y'all get me? And so me and the supervisor went forward because he was having the same issue with testing. So we moved forward and we put together the plan. What that required is that we pull her in office. It kind of feels like a principal office situation, but listen, if it's not done, one thing and this is the reason too why I posted, and believe me, I'm not even done. I'm just getting started with these type of posts, because it's not to shame anybody. I'm not mentioning any names, any schools or anything like that. But I find that we are in a field where, for whatever reason, therapists license as well. I'm going to say y'all, but like people be thinking they untouchable. Like if I'm in training, I'm a helper, so I can get fired. Yes, you can. Right? It's called on the job side, you're not implementing feedback. On the clinical side, you're not trying to grow. So if you're not trying to grow, why am I going to plant you as a seed in real life with real people if it feels right now like you're going to do harm? You know what I'm saying? And that's a clinical supervisor's job, which is why we push our students so hard in a very loving way. But there's no way I'm going to sign off on approval saying that you met all of this criteria for a KPIC internship and you did not. And so, because they have certain requirements too for even the agencies to stay approved by the internship board kind of thing. So we put her on the plan for 90 days. Now, I tried to help your girl out. I was throwing her all kind of like, not let me lay off, but like, okay, this is what we're going to work on this week so that we can help you meet your goal. It's feeling like therapy right now. And she was just still like, that's not going to work. That didn't work. Or she didn't have any excuse as to why she was late to the job, to the site. She was not, she was she had no apology whatsoever and no reason as to why she was sometimes canceling sessions. It was just like insubordinate type stuff, like not even clinical, just like, you don't want to work here. And I'm thinking, like, you got locked in for 12 months. You know what I'm saying? And so either way, this one was hard. I lost sleep over it. I'm not going to lie because I had never let go of a supervisee before. And so I talked to the other supervisor and we literally looked at all of the options and we said, what if we did this? And what we concluded was as much, bones per se, as we threw out, just literally trying to help her out. Because one person that I have not talked about is the executive director of the program. They were ready to cut the cord. Like, fuck this. Like, actually, they were LCSW, but they were over the program. Now they're in a management position. So when you're talking about being a manager, my group practice owners, hear me out. This is why I say running a group practice is not the same as running a solo private practice, because a solo private practice, if you by yourself and you ain't got no help, you wear all hats, yes, but you make all executive calls and you ain't got to worry about no repercussions to nobody in your back office. But when you are running a group practice, you are actually a manager. So that supersedes not clinical hat in terms of ethics, but it's super because you have to do what's in the best interest of the business, not just the therapist. Okay. Does that make sense? So we tamed her because she was trying to give her like 30 days and we like, nah, let's give her like 90. So then we had thought about, should we extend it again? And then we thought about it from, if I looked at it from a kid's perspective, if you keep, as a old school, if you keep slapping a kid on the wrist, what is the kid actually going to learn? Absolutely nothing. If the person never has a consequence, adults, what are we learning? Absolutely nothing, right? And so at some point, I start thinking about her future. And I'm just like, on one end, this is going to be jacked up because now she has to explain why she got let go of a pre-doctoral internship. And if I'm at another agency, that automatically is a red flag. Like, what do you mean you got fired? Because that's unheard of, right? Like, meaning, in so many words, excuse my language, you have to do some really bad shit. You know what I'm saying? To get let go as a therapist in training or a therapist. You know what I'm saying? Like, this stuff we see in the news. So I thought about all of that. And then at the end of the day, I just was like, she made her bed, she lay in it, in so many words. And so we end up letting her go. And the way she handled it, definitely not ideal. She cried immediately, which I expected. You're sad, you're mad, you're all the things. But the thing that bothered me the most is that she took no accountability. None. You guys are not working with me. You guys don't understand my situation. I've given you plenty of opportunities to talk about us understanding your situation privately. But you're saying this out in the open, in the public, in the lobby? You know what I'm saying? Like, we're trying to work with you. And so ultimately, that's how I end up being a part of the letting go, fired of a direct clinical supervisee. And at the end of the day, it was a learning lesson for me because it showed me that for anybody you hire in your business or that you are part of a hiring team at a job, kind of like getting a client, you still don't know everything you're going to get. Think about it. Like when you go on interviews at places or hell, when people meet you in relationships, I hope not, but do you open up like the whole Pandora's box? Do you tell them everything if they don't ask a certain question? No, you don't. And so bottom line is we don't ever know everything that we need to know about a person. But what I will say that I've learned, even especially having a group practice, when I've, hired 8 clinicians, pre-licensed and licensed and administrative staff, and even in my coaching business, like, kissing some ugly frogs, they all taught me something. And I just realized that, that is the role that I chose to step into when I chose to become a business owner, not a side hobbyist, not just an entrepreneur, meaning I am a therapist with a tax ID. I decided to run a solo private practice like a business. I decided to grow that solo practice into a group practice like a business. Then I decided to have a coaching business over time and teach therapists profitable systems. And so just wanted to give some background to that. I know that I've had some people like hop on and hop off, but I wanted to give a little explainer video outside of doing like a little podcast or something like that. If you would like to learn, one, the difference between are you a supervisor or a group practice owner? There's some assessment, like brief questions in the guide. All you have to do is go to the link in my bio on Instagram, and it's the Clinical Supervision Guide. It talks about the differences because a lot of therapists walk a thin line, especially when they start supervising associates, interns, because all it takes is one person to say, "Can you give me some clients?" And then you say yes, and boom, you're a group practice overnight, even though you don't want to admit it. The law says you are because of the rules and regulations that are at play. And so outside of that, it walks you through, which a lot of people don't know unless you read the whole like sales page, is that it also gives you step by step of like questions that you want to ask during the interview process, plus a whole lot more things to think about. And so I also have a YouTube playlist. If you go over to Dr. TK and you look at my playlist, just scroll down, you'll see something for like group practice, solo practice, and then also streams of income. But if you want the supervisor guide, another thing that I'm going to be releasing in February, which is in a week, is I put it out on social media today in my stories. But I recorded like 3 episodes yesterday for each the supervision guide and the therapy groups guide. It's going to be a bonus. So if you already invested in it, you've already purchased it, we're going to send you an email letting you know how to get access to the private podcast feed. It's audio. And it's basically a way for me to connect with you to get to know me. So there's like a welcome episode in there. But ultimately, I want to walk you through 3 brief episodes and diving deeper in how to conceptualize what's in the guide. Because let's be real, a lot of us buy digital products to help us with our business, and then we never open up the guide. But again, my top 2 that I'm focused on right now for clinical expansion is therapy groups and supervision. One, because there are still a lot of trainees out there that are looking for supervisees, including schools and agencies that don't have an internal supervisor. So remember that. And then 2 is therapy groups right now. Our political climate is a shit show. And so is people's deductibles. It is January. Let's be all the way real. And so to me, this is a great time that if a therapist wanted to explore doing therapy groups, this would be the great time to do it. Primarily because not a lot of people can affordability purposes, or maybe they don't want to do individual therapy right now, but they don't do individual. But of course, you do want to make sure that with my social media content that you put people in the right services. So if somebody needs one-on-one, they need to go one-on-one. All right. So outside of that, just stay tapped into the podcast and YouTube channel. What I'm really have been doing over the last month is experimenting with what topics y'all want to hear more of. And then if there's one topic that piques the interest of a lot of people, then most of the time I'll take that and then I will create a podcast episode on it. But right now I'm in my empowerment and teaching mode. And so, all right, y'all, I will talk to y'all later. Just wanted to talk about, what happened with the fired therapist. And there's more stories coming and y'all just see them with more of do's and don'ts. All right, y'all, have a great day. Bye.